This is an open letter to Mr. Bob Lighthizer, Mr. Tucker Carlson, and hopefully President Trump also gets to hear of this. Here's the thing, because apparently Mr. Bob Lighthizer, you are the economic guru. So as per your position as the economics guru, I thought I put my 2 cents in. Thank you for your time. First of all, bravo. You have recognized the problem. The problem that you recognize after 50 years is that a lot of our people in North America are not living well. And somehow Chinese are involved in this matter, that our people are not living well. I see Indian hand, I see Chinese hand, I see Russian hand. There is some other people's hand is involved in our people not living well, the majority of our people. Do you think there is a foreign hand involved, that there is some malicious activity is being, is due to some malicious activity or mentality that our majority of our people are not living well? Okay, that I bravo. Salute to you. You're correct, sir. For the past 50 years, the majority of your people's standard of living, education, health, housing, welfare, has not been going up generation after generation for the past 50 years. It's 2 generations, 3 generations. Has not been going up. And somehow you connect this to some, Russians and some Chinese and some Indians and some people from Brazil. It's because of them that these people are not doing well, the 80% of our population. And in your mind, you connect that to the manufacturing jobs that were available, that seem to pay well for your people to, perform them. You connect this to that and you say, that's it. These doing things with your hands or your mind was when our people were doing things with their hands and their minds, and they were getting paid for these things, these actions that they performed, and everybody was happy, and everybody was middle class, and everybody was doing okay. It's when doing these things went away to China and India, then our people stopped making money. Well, yes, manufacturing went and your people stopped. Why? Because your rich people, capitalism, rich people found some cheaper labor, some robots over there that were Indian, and they were willing to work for much less. Apparently the translation, robot is another English language word. It's some other European, Slavic word, which robot stands for servant. So they found some servant labor in India and Malaysia to do the job much cheaper. But your solution to this is, let's bring this manufacturing back by putting up barriers like tariffs. What you're not considering is that, have you visited recently, have you visited an automated manufacturing line in China or in Tesla? Go to Tesla. It's just open up your YouTube and see to what extent automated manufacturing has gone forward. You're trying to solve your middle class problem. Where is the middle class? Where are the paying jobs for people when people used to do things with their hands and your mind, and they had these good paying job, created a large middle class. Yes, that has gone away, but it will not come back with a 20th century solution, which is bringing manufacturing back, because that manufacturing is going to be 90% automated. A large factory can produce all the necessary shoes for a town with 5 employees who manage the robots who build the fucking shoe. I'm sorry. So my point is this, sir. This is not, you're not, by putting up barriers, you're not bringing manufacturing jobs back. You will bring manufacturing back, but that manufacturing its output is going to be very expensive, because they can raise their prices, because they have to, the competitors are paying a large amount of tariff. So it would be more practical for the people to buy the local stuff, but that local stuff hasn't produced that many labor position. This is what I'm trying to say. Yes, a few people, anybody who has the brain to manage 100 or 500 robot manufacturing, anybody who has that kind of brain, yes, can benefit from this and put up a small and hopefully eventually a large manufacturing place. But that's not going to solve what it seems was your main concern, which should be your main concern. That is, where is the middle class? The middle class, how many people of the middle class caliber do you know who can run a small automated manufacturing company? Them and 3 employees. Very few. And you don't need that many, because there is one of these automated manufacturing can produce enough washing machine for a big town, because it's all with 3 employees. You're not bringing, what I'm trying to say is, your solution is somewhere else, not tariffs, not barriers. First of all, here's what the solution is. First of all, you cannot look at yourself as a country. You either have an empire or you don't have an empire. When you make your currency the reserve currency of the world, that means you want to have an empire. If you don't want to have an empire, that's a different story. But if you have 800 military bases all over the world and you want your dollar to be the reserve currency of the world, then you want to have an empire. Okay, that has got its own economic rules. The empire has a different economic rules than a normal country. A normal country has a trade deficit, and that's a very bad thing. But when you have an empire in which your currency is the reserve currency of most countries still, those rules of deficit does not apply to you, because you're printing a currency that is necessary to run an empire, not the kind of currency that is necessary to run a country. Of course you're going to be always in deficit of spending, because all this money, those people need this money to trade with each other. And they need more of it, because here's the thing, sir. If you don't go to war every other Tuesday trying to abuse your reserve currency status every other Tuesday, you wouldn't have this kind of inflation. The problem is nobody prints interest. As you know, sir, you're a great economic thinker. So nobody prints interest. So if I give you $10 now and expect $11 next year, and this currency is the only one of its kind that I only have the right to print it, if I give you 10, how are you going to return 11 back to me next year when I haven't printed 11? You see where I'm going with this? So we all know that because of the fact that there is interest charged, there is always going to be, for you to just release money into the system, so at least fewer people go bankrupt. The point is, you release money into the empire so fewer people go bankrupt, because they continuously need your money to pay interest on the money that they borrowed in your currency. And their interest payment is always going to be there. That's the money that nobody has printed, that nobody has a right to print except Uncle Sam and his banks. You have an exalted position. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but you have a very, God-given position to be a force for good in the world, but then you keep losing your way, not understanding how beneficial this fact of being a reserve currency of the world can be. How beneficial for the world, not just for me and my cousin. How? First of all, sir, you shouldn't look at your deficit as deficit. If you have an empire, you're always going to be needing to print more and more money so the empire can pay their what they borrow and plus interest. And still many of them, there is not enough money left over, and many of them go bankrupt. There is never enough money for everybody. My point is this, sir. This exalted position as a reserve currency of the world, you can, first step, recognize that you are the heart of the empire. You print the money for the empire. You're not, you shouldn't look at your deficit as deficit. You look at your deficit as providing liquidity for the world, for the business to go around the world, for the business to continue going in its normal path around the world. You have to spend deficit so you can provide liquidity so they can do business with each other. The higher the business trader in the world, the better for everybody. That's that. Your deficit is not deficit if you're an empire. Your deficit is important if you're a small country, but your deficit is not that important if you are the empire. That's that. Manufacturing jobs that you think you can get back by, trying to put up some trade barriers with tariffs, those manufacturing jobs are not going to create a middle class for you, which seems to be your main worry and should be your main worry. The solution is quite simple, sir. As the heart of the empire, you need to provide liquidity to the empire, and everybody wants your dollar. Great position to be in. You have to print money. Great position to be in. All you have to do is, first, if you really want to balance your budget, you have to charge 90% tax on the wealthiest and up, 90% and up, and stop spending so much money on the empire. Close down the empire and say, hey, we want to be a small country. We don't want an empire anymore. We're going to close all our military bases. We're going to go home to stop spending, right? Go home and use that money that we make, build our own country and pay for education, healthcare, and housing of our own people. That's one way to go, and which seems to be the path that your idea goes. But again, even if you do that, still the problem for the middle class is not going to come back, as we already explained. It's all automated. Still, the majority are going to be out of it doing something. So again, you're trying to solve a 21st century that an empire in 21st century would has with the solution of a small country, solutions that a small country has to come up with in order to balance its deficit. Again, being an empire, you need to provide liquidity to the world, and you should not look at that as your deficit as deficit, and you should forget about bringing any kind of manufacturing back, because it's not going to be automated. It's going to be automated, and very few of your people are going to be involved in it. They're going to become very wealthy, but very few. and their products are not going to be competitive anywhere in the world because it has become very expensive. You see, when you put the trade barriers up, the prices inside increases and the prices outside also increases. The manufacturer, that's the problem. That's, the manufacturer, well, your drug manufacturers are actually doing this. The prices are so high inside the United States, and outside the United States, same manufacturer, price is usually like 200 times less. So if you mean by trade barriers, these kind of trade barriers, so Ford has to sell their truck for $60,000 in US, but they can sell it for $30,000 in Germany. Even that would be insulting to Americans. You see what I'm saying? Even if you go put up with trade barriers and Germans don't retaliate. If that's the funny part. If you put up trade barriers and the competing company doesn't bother to reciprocate, even that is going to be insulting to your citizens, because you're allowing a manufacturer to sell its product half the price of what it sells it outside the United States. That's what they sell it inside the United States. That would be very insulting to Americans. So again, trade barriers, even if even if they don't reciprocate, it's just not going to look good. My point is this, Mr. Bob Lighthizer. The solution is simple. You have to provide liquidity. If you want to forget about thinking about, deficit spending, if you want to totally forget about that, okay, you can continuously print money as universal basic income. Provide it to your citizens, and even encourage your citizens to go and travel overseas. You give them money, universal basic income, for free. This is what I'm trying to say is, sir, you're not going to bring middle class back with jobs. It's all automation and AI. Not even the cognitive jobs are not going to be available. The receptionist of my doctor who called me the last time, it was an AI. And it was a shitty conversation I had with the AI, but it's AI. It's going to get better. My point is this. It's like, forget about manufacturing and forget about overseas call centers. It's right here. It's AI, and it's just a small program in this fucking computer. So even these jobs, something as simple as a receptionist job, 1, 2, eventually 3, 4 receptionists are going to be substituted with AI. Eventually you see one receptionist, and then you go and see the doctor, but there are some nurses. But there is no need for even a receptionist or a call girl or somebody in the office. So no, you're not going to bring back middle class with any kind of manufacturing revitalization. Yes, you may bring manufacturing back, but it's not going to be people involved. Your middle class is not going to come back. What I'm trying to say, the majority who provide their labor for an income, they are shut out of luck, because physical and now more and more cognitive jobs are going to robots and AI. So you bring something back, but it's not going to be that manufacturing that is in your mind from the 1960s, 1950s. That manufacturing is gone. Please, sir, just open up YouTube and, type in automated manufacturing and see how many people you see around the manufacturing floor. So this is the wrong way you're going, sir, Mr. Lighthizer. Manufacturing will come back if you put up these barriers. My worry is war. because war starts, first is economic war, then becomes something else. Then it becomes a war involving fireworks. But this is short-sightedness to think that you should look at your deficit as a deficit. You have an empire, everybody was okay more or less with it, everybody was using your money, and you should understand the problem is not the Chinese, the problem is not the empire, the problem is not peace and security. No, the problem is not that. The problem is very simple. Inside your country, in North America, you have failed to, provide enough to your own people. And if you see there are no jobs, you should start providing universal basic income to them. And the problem started when you went to wars, and wars which are very profitable for very few. And the deficit mostly comes from the wars that you just unnecessarily get involved with around the world. I mean, that's one way of providing liquidity to the world. Is like you take war to Afghanistan and you provide a lot of dollars, a lot of liquidity, financing in Afghanistan, and some bank in New York finances billions of dollars for such company to build 100 schools, and eventually the money is gone and only 3 schools are built because the overhead. Salute. That's the wrong way for the empire to start providing liquidity into the world. Pallets of cash, transport of pallets of cash by military means to these regions in order to provide liquidity, but only if we get our way. If we get our way, we provide liquidity. If we don't get our way, we're going to dry up your liquidity. Sir, folks, Mr. Trump, Mr. Tucker Carlson, you need to provide liquidity for the world. If you have the reserve currency of the world, you need to provide liquidity. If you don't go to too many wars, stop expansion of the empire, maybe change all those military bases into American universities and say, okay, from today we only send our teachers over there and our teaching staff over there to teach these monkeys how to do math. From today, all those military bases are going to be universities. They're going to be much better received locally. Let's put it this way. Those military bases in Okinawa and in Khartoum are going to be, received much better if they're no longer a military base, but the university in, Uganda. That meant a few military bases that Uncle Sam has in Uganda, for example, suddenly Uncle Sam's policy changes and we no longer want to force money out of you. We want to teach you. You see, the cost goes way down. Especially if it's a university that's teaching the locals. The locals don't want to blow them up because they're teaching them stuff instead of trying to extort money out of them. I'm sorry, did I say extort money? I meant bring freedom and democracy to them. So my point is this, that you went overboard. These military actions around the world cost a lot of money, but this much money doesn't go all around your population. It goes to very few who own a few manufacturing places where they build a few bombs. They get very rich of these interventions, but not the bulk of your population. Now you're trying to blame these bad policies to blame the foreigners. It was the Chinese that motherfuckers, why did they work so hard for so little? And all we had to do is print money and give them money, and they give us things. These motherfuckers, how smart are these Chinese? They kept on making shit for us, and we just kept printing And they were happy to take our paper and give us shit. That's the funny part. Yes, we take your money. This is the reserve currency of the world. Okay, no, we have no problem with that. You're the reserve currency of the world. We take your money and we give you shit. You still can't see this. You still, just like Mr. Bob Lighthizer, just like you didn't recognize that 70% of the richest people in the world are in United States, in North America. 70% of them, 7 out of 10 richest people in the world lives in North America. And you still say, these motherfucking Chinese, they're coming here bringing money and buying our lands. 7 out of 10 rich people live in North America, and Mr. Bob Lighthizer doesn't have the cringes when he sees Indians have money or Chinese have money or South Africans. When he cringes, Mr. Lighthizer sees that anybody beside properly brought up white people have the right to have money. Other one, you motherfuckers, we cringe when we see you with money. Yes, down there in Brazil, down there in China, down there in India, down there in Russia. Russia is Asian. You're not a proper Englishman. You're not a proper pink skin. This is it, Mr. Bob Lighthizer. You're going down the wrong path. With all due respect, sir. You're going to bring war, simply put, by blaming everybody except you should have started universal basic income years ago when the manufacturing jobs left. But you didn't do that. So all your manufacturing positions had to go into services. Suddenly no more manufacturing, everybody into services. From then, you shouldn't have done that. From then you should have provided universal basic income at least for one member of a household. If it's a husband and wife, the government has to provide, at least one universal basic income for a woman. Just go about it by this. So we start everyone, because women have children and they have to take care of children. They may not be able to work. So you say we will provide universal basic income starting with all women, period. All girls born from age 1 you receive a universal basic income till death. And you encourage your people to, if you don't want inflation inside, you tell them to go spend it abroad. Hey, you're receiving universal basic income, why don't you encourage them to go see the world? And in that way, that money that you're giving them pushes inflation into those countries, which they don't mind, as long as they're receiving dollars. They don't mind that little inflation that your dollars in their country is going to create. They're always going to be in need of dollars. You can be a savior of the world if you do that. But if you go down this path of putting up trade barriers and thinking some crazy idea that you think by bringing some kind of automated manufacturing, you're going to bring back 1950s, manufacturing floor with 50,000 people producing 5 cars a day, 50 cars a day. No, it's going to be 5 people producing 50 cars a day. Any questions? Of a way of labor, you're not going to bring back the middle class, sir, with all due respect. The only way middle class returns from now on, because of all the automation, is going to be universal basic income. And might as well keep the borders open and don't increase the tariffs. Don't fuck up the China shop. It's not going to solve your problem. Your problem of income inequality is not only tax the 90% out of Mr. Jeff Bezos, not only tax that, but also you have to print some in order to, because you're the heart of the empire. You're dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Everybody always needs dollars. The same thing would be just this: continue as is, stop the wars, turn all your military bases to universities, and tell your citizens to encourage them to visit. Print money, give your citizens, and tell them, encourage them to go visit the rest of the world. In this way, you will not have much inflation inside, domestically. Because a lot of the money that you're giving your people, they're spending around the world. So very little internal inflation. This is this is the way to go. Income inequality, tax the rich. And understand that beside taxing the rich, to bring some kind of sanity to the system, sir. I mean, when the lawmaker has got 1/millionth of the wealth of one citizen involved in commerce, that lawmaker is basically, is at mercy of these extremely wealthy people. This is unhealthy. But then you don't see this. This is unhealthy for the society and for the world. You see this. What I'm trying to say is, Mr. Bob Lighthizer, is most of the solutions that you have to take is domestic. You need one solution to take in terms of international matter, and that is, turn all your military bases into universities. And open up your embassies and open up cafe shops in your embassies. Give free cafe to the locals, and provide them with computers and libraries to the locals. Just open up the embassies and turn the military bases into universities, and encourage your people to actually go. Your people could go to American universities in Cairo. Encourage your people to go over there to that American university, so at least they have some kind of contact with the natives over there, and in this way their universal basic income is going to be spent in Egypt. You see, this is one way of providing liquidity. When you have an empire, you have to provide dollars to the world, i.e. provide liquidity so everybody can stay in business and, don't go under because nobody's printing the interest for them. You have to infuse them with liquidity, and you have gone about the wrong way of doing that, and that was provide that liquidity by through the tip of a bayonet. After the tip of the bayonet, provide the liquidity to your own military to destroy, and then provide your own liquidity for example, to build something or not. And better than contracting 100 schools in Afghanistan. Better than doing that, what would be better? Send a lot of your citizens over there as tourists and give them universal basic income, and in this way provide liquidity to that society. Then they will build the kind of schools that they know where every money is going, every dime is going, every dollar is going. Leave it to the locals, but provide liquidity through your tourists, through your citizens, by universal basic income that you give them. This is how you run an empire. This is how you run an empire if you expect it to last long. Having a position of reserve currency is great. It can be used in this way to, you're increasing the quality of life for your citizens at the same time that you're providing liquidity to the natives. Tourism. suggested, encouraged, and in this way you bring down the inflation domestically. Sir, please don't start World War III. Economic war ends in military war. You are, when you see your middle class is gone, it's gone because of, you failed to recognize when there are no jobs for your people. You keep telling yourself that they're lazy. That's why there's no job. And now blame the Chinese and the Indians for slaving for you. Literally, they slaved on those jobs and you printed money and gave them. Now you somehow hold them responsible for your issues. No, they're not responsible. Your issues, the lack of middle class, is not because there's no more work, because even if the manufacturing comes back, the robots are going to do it. Solution is then, as it is now, is that you provide universal basic income for that portion of society that has basically their job has gone away. It was physical, now it's also cognitive jobs are going away. Desk jobs are going away. And 90%, believe me, are not of the quality who can, and you shouldn't expect everybody to have their own manufacturing warehouse, everybody be a manufacturer. Are you kidding me? This is not going to be competitive. If you sir, you cannot go back on technology. Telling people that centralized manufacturing is bad, we have to go back to local manufacturing, and all of our citizens have to, start having their own little manufacturing workshop. If it's automated, well, it's great, but if it's not automated, how the hell to compete with the automated ones? And the automated ones cannot compete if they are small scale. Even the automated ones cannot compete with a few large central, the kind of automobile plants that Tesla has built. With literally pressing its chassis as a whole piece. You know how many people were used to work on putting a chassis together? You can't go back on this technology and say, no, we want manufacturing plants that at least employ 5,000. Seriously? If it's not working, the solution is not going back in time and trying to, solve a 21st century problem with a 20th century solution. Manufacturing is never ever, unless you blow yourself up in nuclear war, which is going to come after this economic catastrophe. After that, yes, you have to go back to small scale manufacturing. But if you continue this timeline and don't go through a nuclear war, small scale manufacturing and non-automated manufacturing is never going to return. And more of your service jobs are also going to be automated. So you have no choice but to print money and tax your very wealthy to the hilt, and print money and give your citizens, but continuously encourage them to go overseas and spend it. In that way, inflation comes down. Imagine, a whole lot of Americans going all over South America and Europe and Africa and Asia and spending money. Both good for them, good for the economy. They pick up a lot of information, they get educated, and this money that they spend, it does not bring any inflation domestically in North America. This is a solution. Trying to bring back middle class by bringing back some kind of a job, that's not a solution. There are no jobs anymore. Very few jobs are going to be available. Nobody can sell their labor because there are robots who are going to be doing the labor much more efficiently. So to avoid World War III, Mr. Bob Lighthizer, please don't start an economic war. Go the sane way and say, no, our deficit is not really a deficit because we are an empire. Whatever we spend, the natives over there will absorb it and want some more. Let's not lose our position as the reserve currency of the world, and let's print money as much as we want and charge our very rich so they can, so the society sees justice. But then also print money, a lot of money, but encourage your people to spend it elsewhere. You're the empire, sir. You're not a small country. Deficit doesn't apply to the empire. And the idea that, the Chinese are coming and buying our land, the Indians are buying our land, I mean, how far you want to go down that ladder? You're stoking fear and racism because you fail to see how good you can play this hand. Mr. Trump likes to compare it to a deck of cards, a hand. This is a great hand, but you have to understand how to play it. You can be a great empire only if you put the fucking bayonet away. Everybody's not out to get you, and you're also human on earth. It's not, you're not in some exalted position. This is all back to some white people went and found some Chinese people who were willing to work for less. Had these white people, had those Chinese work themselves to death for them, they brought the product back, they made a whole lot of money, and now these rich white folks who made a lot of money out of Chinese slave labor, now these rich white people are telling the poor white people that your problem is the Chinese. You see, he stole your job. What the fuck are you talking about? No, you gave that job. Nobody stole it. You gave that job to the Chinese because he was willing to do it for less. Your rich friends. Whatever. Whoever has, whoever owns these manufacturers, whoever started transferring their manufacturing from North America to China, maybe go blame them. But even they're not to blame. At least, they provided showed some kind of technology to the natives, and thank you for that. But the solution is not to blame the Chinese for why they work for less. Are you fucking kidding me? You work for less and you get blamed. Solution is simple, sir, with all due respect. Bob. Solution is very simple. Don't look at yourself, your deficit, as a deficit of a country because you're running an empire. And all corners of an empire are using your currency as a reserve currency, and they're trading with your currency. They're not trading with any other currency. This is a great position to be, except you have to understand that this is not a deficit that you have. You have to continuously print money and feed it to the system just to keep the system running. So you don't have deficit. You have inflation that comes because you keep going to unnecessary wars. That comes because you think you have to own everything. Put the military bases away, turn them away, turn them overnight, turn them to universities, open up your embassies, and tell your citizens to spend money, the universal basic income that you print and give them. You tell your citizens to go spend this universal basic income in Ghana, in Zimbabwe, in Egypt, in Romania, in Hungary, in Germany, in Russia. Go spend these dollars there, my citizens. And this is a health care for you, this is housing for you. All these will provide from universal basic income. You have to do it. There's nothing for your people to do. Middle class is not going to come back by people doing shit, because robots are here. Manufacturing as well as the desk jobs. Why is that not clear to somebody who's advising the leader of the world? This should be clear to somebody who advises the leader of the world. Sir, be a good empire. Open everything up. And no, don't look at it as your deficit. Look at it as providing liquidity, because we print the reserve currency of the world and everybody borrows dollars. Everybody in the world has to borrow dollars to do business. Spend dollars to do business. Is that a bad thing? You keep going to wars and you keep sanctioning countries that no, we don't want you to spend dollars. Why? This idea that you guys, the rich people in North America are blaming the poor Chinese for all the problems of that there are no middle class in North America. It's the Chinese fault. Are you kidding me? Salute. Universal basic income, sir. You want middle class, universal basic income. You don't want inflation. Encourage your people to spend the money elsewhere. Salute.